Okay, here we go. So this is the Genius Hotend, and I remove this fan first, right? Then these two set screws, they need to be loosened, and then the hotend can be pulled down, right? So here's the hotend, and now we're going to heat it up a little bit, and then loosen this, and then we're going to inspect this and see if we have the same problem. Again, when you disassemble this, the first thing you do is to measure very carefully the length of the PTFE, and then you take a note of exactly how much you got. So this is, in my case, it's like 24 millimeters, about that. But you need to be very careful to measure the exact amount here, right? Because when you measure the clock in here, how wide is the clock, then you know how much extra PTFE you need, because this top piece here is actually going all the way up in this hole. There is no more hole here. The easy fix would just be to move this a little bit higher, right? This way the top here stops at the top piece in here, and then you should be done real easy, right? But that is not the case. This PTFE needs to be about 2 to 3 millimeters longer, so you need a new one. Just heated this up and carefully unscrewed it, and since it was still hot, it melted over here, right? So let's see if I can. Yeah, it's a little bit too cold for me to be able to pull this apart, so just need to heat it up a little bit. Just give it 2 seconds with this one, then you should be able to pull this apart. Now let's inspect what we got here. See, here's your clock, and also note what happens here. The filament is wider, is just as wide as the inside of your PTFE, so that means it's also really hard to push it, right? So that is one of the advantages about you're using a all metal hotend. Then you don't have this problem. But first of all, we need to solve this clock problem, and this is this one. So this is about 2 millimeter wide, and I did measure the length of this one. So now I need to take a new one and assemble the whole thing again. I happen to own 2 of these Genius printers. So what I did is I took both of them and compared the original length PTFE, and they are very close to 45 millimeters each. So this should be within the tolerance. And now I made a new one of Capricorn, and I made it 47. And what I did is the top piece that I stick up to the cooler, I took some sandpaper and made it, just a little bit, so it's easier, to stick up the hole. And also this top piece up here, maybe it's difficult to see, but I took a real nice sharp cutter blade like this, and I cut it a little bit, so there's a little funnel here at the top. This way it's a lot easier to put in the filament when you're feeding in your new filament. And the other end here, you need to cut it really straight, because you want a tight fit to the top of the nozzle, because you don't want any material to go out here and create a clock, right? So now we just need to assemble all this, and we'll get back. Now this is just a pre-assembly, just to show you how to assemble it. Note these two, they should be like this, because when this one is mounted inside the cooler, the two set screws, you want them to hit these two areas. You don't want the top one to hit this flat side, because otherwise it's going to, do something bad and just steer this one, right? So note this. So you have a half a turn each way until you reach a point where you can still see just a visible, tiny little visible gap here. The point is to have this as little as possible, but still visible. It cannot be that it's going all the way down, because then you have no control. You want you need to know that the top side of the nozzle itself, of this volcano nozzle part, of this brass part, is going real tight to the metal part here, and then the PTFE is going to go all the way down here and make a tight fit here as well, right? So now to tighten this, I need to heat it to printing temperatures, and then I will tighten this one. Alright, let's assemble the hot end into the cooler. And what I did when this one was hot to printing temperatures, I screwed this in real tight and I pressed down the PTFE as hard as I could this way, because this will also get a little bit soft, and then I wanted it to go all the way down. So now it should be fairly easy just to stick this in. And what I hope to see now is a feeling that it actually feels a little bit like, yes, I can feel when I press this that it is a little bit soft. That means if I press this real hard while tightening the two set screws, then my PTFE will still have pressure down the nozzle. So that is fantastic. So that was my final assembly. All I need to do now is bed level and see how well it works. Well, I know this is going to work because I got another one running right here, and it is just printing fantastic.